Let's. Hello, folks. What's everybody doing? It is Monday, but I'll bet a lot of you are at home. Maybe you work from home. Maybe you do not usually work from home, but today you're home. I'll bet you did not head to work, especially if you're in Austin, where I am. The roads are covered in ice. It rained really heavy right before the temperature dropped, and then it snowed, which is the worst thing that can happen because then the ice stays on the roads, makes a layer of ice underneath snow. And that's really, really bad for a city like Austin where nobody knows how to drive on the ice. I'm just kicking it here, laying in bed. I got up for a little while, but I just decided to lay back down. And I thought I would try my my channel out. I've got a new studio set up, and I've actually got a new lighting system and microphone, XLR mic, and I've got some new equipment in my studio room. I'm not in there now, but I'll come back on here live maybe later today and I'll be on that. But I'm trying to make this thing work so I can get on here and start talking to you people, to folks, to my friends, my subscribers. Please hit like and subscribe if you're in here. If anybody's listening, I don't even know right now because I'm using OBS for live streaming with this new setup, and it's not showing me even if anyone's watching or if I have any views yet. Um, no one has written anything. We'll leave the topic open. I'm just going to randomly talk and pretend there are people listening because I can't see a view count. So if you're here, thank you for being here. I love you. I appreciate you. It gets lonely up here in the ISS, just laying around. There's not much to do on the ISS. Have you ever noticed that astronauts don't really do much on the ISS besides kind of float around, do tricks, and show you how their toothbrushes work, how they use the bathroom, and do somersaults. But like, where are the experiments? Like, you would think on the ISS they would have rats in little boxes running around in mazes doing things, or floating on wires, or doing something hooked up to some gas tube, uh, trying to train them to do tricks in space to see if they learn tricks better in space than they do on Earth in gravity. Something. But, they don't come back usually to Earth after the astronauts have been in space on the ISS, and they don't come back to Earth and say, hey, here are 12 experiments that we brought up into space since we spend almost, I don't know how many millions of dollars it is a day. Was it over 50 or 60 million dollars a day that we pay for NASA to do things? And when they come back from a trip, where they've been on the ISS, and they don't give a list of experiments that they ran, results that they got, things that they're working on. They don't share that with us. It's all top secret, I guess. So they can't really tell you what they're doing up there. I can tell you, I'm from Houston, and I grew up with astronauts. I was Mormon as a kid, and my bishop was astronaut Don Lind. He was a Skylab astronaut. I can remember when I was a kid, I must have been, I was about 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old, and he was wanting to go up in Skylab. And everybody in our ward, which is like a parish, thought he was going to go up. And then he didn't get to go up. And then 6 months later, however many months it took, he was going to go up on another Skylab mission. And again, he did not get to go up. And then his turn came, and he went, and he left. And he was gone for however long it took. I couldn't even tell you how long he was up there, but I think it was like 2 months. But now, as an adult, I actually don't think there's anybody up there. I've seen so many fail videos of people exposing the CGI, how they how they become see through when they go around the corners, and there's a guy in the background floating across, and you can see his knee pads and his harness around him, and he's hanging from the ceiling. You can see wires going through people as they talk. They'll be holding something, and then they hold a wire, and it goes like right through their wrist. And somebody will be talking, and the guy will hold the mic, and he'll stick it like right into his neck, and it goes into his neck because they really don't have the mic in the hand, or something about what they're doing is they're pretending to hold things. There was one guy that he reaches out and he grabs a ball and he puts it on the shelf on the wall, but there's nothing in his hand. But you can see he's simulating grabbing a ball. They're either watching a monitor screen, or somebody said they can even have like special contacts that they can look through, where they see images in special lenses that they wear on their eyes, on their eyeballs. I don't know about that technology. I've never seen that. But there are plenty of proofs and doubts as to whether, and even postulates, even let's say people that say, engineering wise, look at the ISS, how many rubber seals would have to be on that vehicle? To be able to hold what they call what is it, the cupola, the turret where they look around and there's windows above. That thing would have windows on it. They can crank them open and crank them shut with the shades on the outside. And they have these crank handles that are going through the steel on a bearing with a rubber seal, some kind of airtight seal that's under pressure. Um, and seals wear out. And that thing has been up there for how long now? 25 years? And if you've got a space station that's been up there for 25 years, have they not renovated the whole thing and taken some windows out and replaced seals? It would be impossible. They would have to be locking off, maybe with airlocks. They would have to be locking off sections of the ISS to do something like that. There was that man that runs that channel called Smarter Every Day. He was talking with Don Pettit, and he was asking him how they close the windows on the cupola. And I think he asked him, like, what if you get a leak? What do you do about it? And Pettit said, I don't know. He says, I'm sure there's a procedure for that if we need to do that, but I haven't had to do that. It's like you catch them completely off guard if you ask them a question. There's things that they say, like one time, the three astronauts, they're floating, giving a presentation on television on the news, or they're speaking to a classroom in a school, and they say, like, where we're talking to you now, for example, we're in Pennsylvania, and and then they just keep talking. And it's like, wait a minute, you just said, they'll refer to themselves as being on a location on the ground, on Earth somewhere. Um, what was it? Another astronaut said that she was talking about low Earth orbit. And she said, someone's asked why we haven't been back to the moon. And she said, well, no, that was Buzz Aldrin, but this other woman, no one mentioned the moon, but she just happened to throw out there that mankind has never been past low Earth orbit, and we're hoping with this new Orion project that this rocket's going to be able to go through the Van Allen radiation belt, because we have not been able to do that yet, and mankind, humans, have not gone through the radiation belt yet. And it's like, wait a minute. Didn't we go to the moon? Because if you went 237,000 miles to the moon, you'd have to go through the radiation belt. One of the astronauts was asked about that. What was his name? His name escapes me right now, but they asked him, how did you guys go through the radiation belt, that you didn't feel anything about that? And he says, well, I guess it didn't harm us because we didn't know about it. So, kind of answer is that you flew right through the radiation belt, but it didn't harm you because you forgot about it and you didn't know about it. Well, that doesn't make sense because physically, allegedly, you went right through it. But you know that one of the biggest things, like I mentioned first, is the maintenance issues. That ISS right now would be falling apart. And look at this, like this picture that I have as my background photo. There are wires and cables that just randomly hang out everywhere, and they just stick out. You know, there's what about the dust? What about when they go to the bathroom? Can you imagine? You know, people don't even like to drop a deuce when they're in jail. Could you imagine if you were on the ISS? The other thing is pressure. You know, in the vacuum of space, if you pressurize the inside of that ISS, it would be blowing outward like a balloon so that any leak in a window or a door on the ISS would blow the atmosphere on the inside outward, you know, and it would be catastrophic. It would be very rapid, and it would be, like if you're in an airplane and you're flying on a commercial airliner and you go through, someone kicks a window. I just saw that on a video the other day. I was watching some airline. I like to watch that channel called Pilot Debrief, and some of these other guys, 7-4 Gear, and Dan Kreider, and Greg Biffle died. God rest his soul. Let's pray for that family. Heavenly Father, please bless soul of Greg Biffle and his family. May they find you and go upwards to heaven and not follow others who might deceive them on where they're going right now, if it's not too late. I pray that for people too, when they die. I had a death experience, and I met some beings. When I woke up and I drowned. And I found myself floating kind of like in my energy toroid, like in blackness of space. And there were people all around me, and it was like everyone who had just died. And I realized, I think I'm dead. And I remembered when I was in the shower, I had fallen, I vomited and slipped off my feet, hit my face on the floor, and passed out. And I thought, don't pass out. I was in a shower tub, and it was about 5 inches deep. But I guess I passed out and inhaled water, and my vital signs stopped. But next thing I knew, I'm in what looks like the tiles of my bathroom floor, floating inside of my energy toroid. There was a guy next to me, and there was a woman to my left, and there were other people that looked in different states of the way that they just died. It was it was like we were all floating like caviar. Each energy toroid of each person was like eggs in a bubble, like within, like the way caviar is with all the eggs together, like ROE, fish eggs. It was like we were all just packed together. We were floating in this blackness of space, but there were no stars, and we were kind of headed on like a curve. It was like a long, like the Nike swoosh. We weren't going straight. It was like I know we were turning left, but it was like we were floating and hovering, but we must have been going at a great speed. But I got the feeling we were going back to the moon. How did I get on this topic? I think I was sent back. Two beings. They looked human, but they just looked very, very old. They were bald, very skinny. They looked like they were on Ozempic. And they came up to me. They had black eyes and just wrinkly old. They looked like they must have been 150, 200 years old. Old. But their eyes were black. And one of them looked at me and said to the other one telepathically, he doesn't belong here, send him back. And I was happy. And I rose up, and I remember I floated up and I turned 180 degrees, and I went back into this multicolored tunnel. And that scene ended. And then when I woke up in the shower, and I remember I just got up off the floor and I was on my knees. I was going around in the hot water. I had really hot water, and I had 2 hot water heaters. And let me read. I've just got a notification to set up. Add effects using hand gestures. It's my camera's watching me using hand gestures. Okay. So anyway, I woke up in my shower and I remembered falling on the floor and it got off my face and I got up on my knees and I was moving around. And I eventually looked down. I found my body and was kind of like sucked right back into it through my heart. And then I woke up again, but this time I was underwater, and 5 inches of water over my nose and mouth covering my eye. And I came out. But I'd been gone, I don't know how long, over an hour, but the water was hot. I think I had a friend who's a veterinarian who told me the only way I did that and was able to come back physically to him was because the water was hot. I had dual hot water heaters where one would, as one would empty, the other one would heat, and you could go back and forth with them. It was a 4 bathroom house, and that's maybe the only reason why I'm still here. But what I was getting at is, I think there are beings. I believe in the prison planet idea. Have you ever heard of that? That we're here, we reincarnate, and we might be stuck in a cycle where we just keep doing it. And if you don't watch out and you don't stand up, I know now. I think if those beings had come to me and told me anything else, eventually I would have told them right off the bat. I already knew about them. I would have said, hey, I know where you're taking me. I don't agree. I don't want to go back. I don't want to be assigned to another family or a mother and go to another womb and be born again. And I'm ready to go straight up and go to heaven. And I'm going to try to ascend to another layer. I'm out of here. Adios. And I would have flown off, knowing that I had dominion over my own energy field. You know what's interesting is if you've ever been out of body, that's one reason why I had this channel. I want to talk about paranormal stuff. How many people have been out of body? Whether you do it by meditating, or has it ever happened to you, or have you had a near-death experience, or have you woke up and found yourself hovering above your body and you got scared and you went right back in? I've heard a lot of people have done that, where it's just like, oops, I don't know what happened. I just kind of woke up and found myself hovering above my body. Other things I'd like to talk about on this channel are, let's see, we talk about death experiences. We talk about, what about answers to prayer? What about miracles? Does anybody know any miracles? Have you had just astounding miracles in your life? They were just impossible without the help of God. How about people, have you ever seen God? Have you ever had a vision or prayed or maybe left your body, flown through the planets, gone through stars, taken a journey? You know, you see it on paintings and drawings, and it's the same for all of these people. And I actually had an experience. I'll share at a later time. But when I see the paintings, certain ones, of where God is, and he's on a throne, and there are steps, and the Lord is there on his right side, and the Lord is standing, and there are people around, and angels, some are blowing trumpets, and the hosts of heaven, all of the people around them are wearing white robes, and some are wearing sashes. The Lord's wearing a big sash, like a red sash or something. And there's a painting that's pretty famous in the Mormon, the LDS church, that you'll see in a lot of chapels, that is very similar to where I went and what I saw. Just there briefly and came right back into my body. But it was a journey. They talk about, you'll see animated in certain short films. I've seen shows a person, and I heard a woman talking about going through the planets. She remembered going through the sun. People talk about flying through the stars, and I had that journey once. It was back in 1985. Another thing I'd like to talk about is UFOs. Any alien encounters in here? Do we have any Travis Walton types? Anybody who's got any experience with that? I'd like to talk about that in the chat. Bring it up. How about anything else paranormal? What about the dark side? Have you had any evil? Have you ever been attacked? Some people say they might have um, the shadow man or some being, or some people get attacked where they're pounced on their chest and they can't breathe and they can't see the window and they can't they have to call out the name of Jesus Christ to have beings and demons that are around them to make them go away. You know, that happens a lot to people I've heard of. So what have we talked about? Demonic attacks, UFOs, death experiences, heavenly experiences. What else is there? There's telepathy. What about telepathic experiences? Have you ever thought of something and someone standing next to you just turns to you and answers you? Or you thought of somebody and the phone rings and it's them calling, but you know the timing was too instantaneous, you know it was too perfect, that somehow you had a cosmic connection and you just knew it. And it had that deja vu feeling to it where you just knew it. What other types of experiences are there, you know, that we can talk about? You've got what about defying the laws of physics? You know, have you ever seen the videos of like people that are walking across an intersection, they're about to get run over by a bus, and suddenly like a flashing Flash Gordon angel of light comes in and whisks them out of the way and the bus goes by, and before they know it they're just standing on the corner, and just half a second ago they were in the middle of the intersection walking, and the next thing they know they're standing on the corner and a bus just went by right through the middle of the intersection. Have you seen those? Has anything like that happened to you? And got my vape out. You know, I don't see anybody in the chat yet, and I know some of you will see this after it's posted. I'll get some views. But if you're in here and you're watching, please say anything about the sound. Ask me a question, name a topic. Tell me what the microphone sounds like. Is my volume good? Can you see me all right? One thing I wanted to check out is this is what I look like with my normal camera scene. This is just me, like, you know, just floating around in the ISS. And then if I want to show you something on the any of my, I have it set to show you windows within my Chrome tabs. This is a YouTube channel that I've been watching. It's called Bad Brad. This guy has been a hired gun for 30, 40 years. Started out on Sunset Strip in a band called, what was his band called? I forget, it will come to me, but he was there back in the big hair 80s days, in the 80s. Then he lived in Nashville for a while. He's been touring. He's the guy that's been a hired gun. He'll go on the tour bus, and he's played for a lot of well-known names in music as their guitar player. And he gets hired for a tour. He goes on a tour, but he talks on these episodes about what it's like to become a professional musician and what it's like to ride on a tour bus. The actual nitty-gritty, dirty stories of what actually happens on a tour bus. And like, you can only go number one in the bathroom on the bus. You can't go number two. You have to wait until you get to a truck stop. And sometimes you can't always wait. And whenever somebody has to do that, They wind up with nicknames and they get ridiculed, and people hate it. Sometimes you can't stand other people on the bus. Sometimes you might want to fight with some of the people that you're riding with, but when you get on stage, you all blend together with the music that you practiced. You put on a beautiful show and you do what you're supposed to, and you do it professionally. I like the way he shares. He teaches like a mentor, like he's preaching, because he's put so many years into it. But watch, every time he puts out a video, he'll either start the video or end it with him improvising to some beat. Watch this video start off. Isn't that pretty good? I mean, I can't believe it. I've played guitar for a long time, since I was 5. I've got a little problem with my hand right now. I've got a nerve that got pinched. It's giving me trouble. I'm having to do some exercises on it, but I'm trying not to play the video too straight through. I don't want to get a copyright strike. Let's continue it. See what it sounds like. Where are we? Oh.
I remember when being cool wasn't something you tried to be. It was just who you were when you stopped caring about who was watching. There was a time not that long ago when cool had nothing to do with algorithms, likes, or how many vintage pedals you owned. Cool.
Anyway, he's called Bad Brad. You should look him up. He's interesting to watch. I still don't see anyone in the chat yet. If you're watching me, please say something in the chat so I know you're here. Tell me, please, about the sound, the microphone, the level. If you saw that when I just played Bad Brad and you see me playing videos and switching scenes, if it's working and it all seems to be running smoothly, so that I'll know that I'm running this new studio setup correctly. I also have a setup that I put in my other room where I've got lighting set up and where I have my desktop computer set up on a desk. I've got an XLR mic now with a 48 volt amp mixer and the real microphone with the real audio sound, to where when I talk in it, it won't sound like this. This is just the MacBook microphone of my laptop. But if you want that real nice studio sound, like you see when people are podcasting, all the, what's his name, Julian Dory or Rogan or any of these other people, when you see them when they're talking and they have the nice microphone setups, I want to get that kind of sound. I've got it now where it actually does sound pretty good. Let's go in here. I want to try to flip to another. Let's see what the weather's doing.
Tomorrow we're cover part of this will impact whether we are seeing numbers like this, or
let me refresh this channel because I haven't watched it for about 10
cover part
hours.
of this will impact whether we are seeing numbers like this, or maybe we see some numbers even colder, as cold as like upper single digits if the sky is clear with the amount of snow and ice we still have on the ground in some areas, especially in Williamson County in the hill country. But for now, we'll say about 18 in Austin. That would definitely be our coldest morning so far of the season.
18 right now.
15 in Georgetown, 13 Burnet, 12 Llano, 12 Mason, and Fredericksburg. And then here's a closer look at the I-35 corridor. It's just going to be mid to upper teens up and down the Austin Metro from Williamson down to Travis down to Hayes County. So hard
Mid
freeze
to upper
preps.
teens right now in the weather. Did I tell you? Did you hear me at the beginning? I said it rained yesterday when the temperature started dropping the night before. I think it was Friday night. the temperature started dropping and it was raining. And then the rain turned into ice. So you had ice on the roads. Then it started snowing. Then it started raining again. Then the rain turned into sleet. Then that started hitting the snow and hard packing the snow and making it bumpy and hard. And it was already on a layer of ice. So some of these roads around here are going to take a while to thaw out. That's what happens when you get that layering, when it rains first and then it snows and then it rains again on top of that layer and then sleet. You get this hard pack ice. I don't know if y'all remember the storm of the century back in, like, it was, I think, in the year 94, 93 and 94, if you're old enough, in New Jersey and New York. I was living in New Jersey. And that happened. And we had layers of ice and snow and ice that were on the ground. Even when the weather warmed up for another month, there was ice in my driveway that just sat there. It was like, it just wouldn't melt. It was just this hard ice. It was weird. It was warm enough for it to melt away, but the way that it was layered, it just stayed on the driveway and it was in tracks. Because I went out the night that it rained and it froze and it started making the layers. I backed the car out of the garage and I ran back and forth up and down the driveway to make the trails for the car to be able to make it up into the garage by following the tire tracks. Because I think if I would not have done that, then I would have just had a deep, hard pack that would have been hard to get over to get to my garage. But I'm still wondering if I'm having some of you watching it with any views yet, because I don't see anyone in the chat. Why do I not have a number of people in the chat? See, community moderation participants. It just shows myself. I've got a menu here. It says moderation activity. Moderation activity will be shown. I don't have any moderators assigned. Timestamps. I don't have any timestamps. Reactions. That would be like hearts. I'm not monetized yet, so you can't give me a super chat. I don't see that. And send feedback. Top fans, I guess I give a crown to top fans. What do I do with that? If I hit top fans, it's not doing anything now because there's no one in my chat. Like I said, you can be watching this later on after this goes on into my list of videos from my live session, even though I had no one in the chat. I can separate it by live chat, where all messages are visible, or top chat. Some messages, such as potential spam, may not be visible. I'll just put this on live chat. I still don't see anyone. But we're still just laying back here on the ISS on a Monday morning. It's snowing down on Earth, down in Austin, where I'm usually at. But since I'm on the ISS right now, can you tell I'm floating? See how I just move around? And I just have kind of like a... you ever notice that when people are in space, or they're faking being in space, or they're acting being in space, they tend to just constantly bounce up and down? Like I'm doing. They just go up, and they go down, and they go up, and they go back down. You ever wonder why that is? I think that's what they think it's supposed to look like when someone says, ready, action. They just start going up and down because that's what they think it looks like when they're floating in space, because they're faking it. So, is the ISS scheduled to come down now? Is it going to enter the Earth's orbit and burn up? I thought I heard discussions about that if the ISS were to come back into Earth's orbit, that it would burn up and there would be nothing left of it. But there might be some debris, and we have to watch out because there may be some debris that would could hit somebody or damage some property. But the bulk of it, the majority of it, will just burn up in re-entry. And it's even funny for me to say that because I actually don't believe any of that anymore. It's kind of like I've woken up in my life and I realized that the tooth fairy does not exist anymore. And it's just funny to talk like the tooth fairy still exists when you know he doesn't. It's like, I know he's up there. You can see, you go to the government's NASA website, it will tell you where to see the ISS in the sky. And when you look at particular times, you'll see a shiny vehicle right where they say it will be. But let me ask you this. Think about your eye's perception and how far you can see. Like if I'm in Austin right here, if I was on a flat plane, do you think I would be able to see us the West End Tower in Dallas that's right next to Dealey Plaza, that's got the spindle rotating restaurant in it, the Ball in the skyline of Dallas? It's called the Reunion Tower. Do you think if I walked outside right now and there was nothing between me and the Reunion Tower, I'd be able to see it from here when it's maybe 357 miles away? I don't think so. It would be so tiny. Now think about the ISS. If it's up there, it's about 275 to 300 miles away. That's about the distance. How come when we look up and we see this shiny object, but it looks big enough to be a lot closer? Because you can kind of see some size to it. It's not, but could you imagine looking at a tower, that far away? And how small it would be? If it was 357 miles away, it would just be a dot. If you could see it at all, it would be so tiny. I mean, you think about it. If you've ever looked and watched like on a highway and seen vehicles pass you on a straight stretch of highway in a desert somewhere where the horizon's pretty flat and you've got vehicles that are way up there ahead of you. They only have to be maybe 5 miles ahead of you, 6 miles ahead of you, and they're like little dots on the horizon. You can barely make out what kind of vehicles they are. You can't tell the difference between maybe a truck, a semi-truck, and a pickup truck. It's just, and that's only less than 10 miles. So you're going to tell me if the ISS is 275 miles up, it's still in low Earth orbit. Because as many astronauts are even saying on live TV from the ISS that we've never gone above low Earth orbit. But that's still so far away. What is that shiny thing that's up in the sky? That's my question. If NASA has it on a schedule and tells you, look up in the sky on these dates at this time and you'll see the ISS go by. I've done it, and it shocked me. I saw it. But what was I looking at? I saw something. But whatever I saw, I don't think there's anyone in it. Think about the logistics of launching a rocket, and you've got a shuttle strapped to a rocket, and it launches, and then it separates, and the shuttle goes off by itself, and the boosters fall back into the ocean, and that space shuttle would continue and continue with its own rockets on it, and it would go all the way up to 275 miles, and then it's going 17,500 miles an hour, and it's orbiting the Earth. And they say they're actually going so fast that they're falling around the Earth. Have you ever heard Don Pettit explain that? Well, we're actually falling to follow the curvature of the Earth because at that altitude, at that speed, it's just the right speed, orbital velocity, where you're falling continually around the Earth. And the way they explain it, it doesn't make much sense now that I'm old enough to think about it, and I'm an economist, and I've taken a lot of math, and I've studied a lot of physics in the university. And when I try to picture it now, it doesn't make sense when I think it all the way through. Going 17,500 miles an hour. How are they going to make a space shuttle meet up with the ISS without destroying it, without having a huge accident? Do you know, could you imagine the accident they would have if you had this ISS coming in? Just bam, 17,500 miles an hour. How are you going to get their speeds to be perfectly parallel and then just meet within inches of each other and just tap and line up the screws and open up the hatch, and the astronauts just pass right through and, hey, we're here, and the other ones get in the shuttle and go back home, and it all works every time without even a fender bender. That, the thing doesn't even have bumpers on it or fenders or anything. I mean, seriously, think if the thing has to accelerate to 17,500 miles an hour, then it has to locate the already orbiting ISS and match up wherever it's going around the Earth. When it's coming back around, the rocket has to go up and then go in perfect timing with it. It's like a surfer catches a wave. You see the wave rising up and you start paddling and you try to catch it where you stand up on the wave, right? You're trying to get that perfect timing, like catching a wave, and here comes the ISS, and you're going 17,500 miles an hour, and you try to get the speeds exactly aligned, and then you try to get close enough to where you can actually touch without anyone in the ISS or the space shuttle is going bam, just getting killed inside the vehicles, smashed against the walls, or destroying the vehicles and ripping them open, and the pressurization gone out, and they instantly dead bodies floating in space from giant collisions. And it just seems like it's not something that could actually happen. I can't picture it. It's too precise at that speed, at that altitude. With, just think about it. There's two vehicles coming together and just doop, and just touching like a little kiss, just, and the seals go together and they just get it right, and they can steer it with these little retro rocket controllers, and it goes together. And hey, my pillows are showing. There we go. And everything just lines up, and they're mated together. And then the astronauts that came up there come out of the shuttle and go into the ISS, and the ones that are ready to leave, they have a ceremony, and the commander changes over who's going to be the new commander, and says, I'm handing over command of the space shuttle. And everybody's holding their arms like this. They're always holding their arms like this as they're floating up and down, like this. And as they talk, they're going up and down. And then one of them will do a flip, a somersault, and the older I get, I'm old enough now to where the older I get, when I just look at them and I think about the details of what it would take to actually do what they're doing. And I'm waking up. It's like, wait a minute, this is just about impossible. Come on. How many people are in this live chat? Why will it not show me? Hold on. That's really aggravating that you can't even see. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream because I don't know how many people are here. If you're here, give me a question, ask me something, or tell me about the sound, please. Let me know. If you were just enjoying what I was saying, just telling a story, let me know. Give me a topic. If you remember me from watching my channel when I started 7-8 years ago, let me know also. Otherwise, I'm just laying in bed on this snowy, frozen day where nobody's going to get anything done today, not with these icy roads. You want to look inside the ISS here? What I want to know is, why are there so many cables all around here? Cables, look at that. There's There are cables just hanging from the ceiling. What is that? Is that actually open where you can see through to the set? I think this whole thing's a 3-wall set. Just like I'm doing now. I'm laying in bed. If I move, see, the bed disappears. I did my trick. The pillow disappears. Anyone in the chat? Hey, wait, what? Don't get back. Don't. There we go. All I want is a count of how many people are in here. If it says 0, let me know 0. Otherwise, if I go to studio, let me show you. If I go to my studio, I'm actually running this from my other Alex Aquarius channel, which only has 1 subscriber, instead of my other one that I've had forever. This is my first video I've ever done on this channel. This is Alex Aquarius with no space. I have Alex Aquarius with the space in between the 2 names, and then this is Alex Aquarius is all one word. All I did was take out the space, but it's the same name. There's no content on this channel. So I haven't started anything on this channel. I haven't made any videos. Therefore, I have no judgments. I don't have any strikes. I've never had a strike. But my channel did lose a lot of views because I had a video that I made about an over-the-counter supplement that you could get at General Nutrition that people bought. It was turmeric. Turmeric, you can buy it in the grocery store. Curcumin. How do you call it? Curcumin? Curcumin turmeric. But people actually buy that and grind it up and eat it as powder, put it on their food, and they believe that if they do that, it will prevent them from ever having cancer. Now, that's an over-the-counter belief. You could say that's like an urban legend. It's not proven. It's not approved. I never said that the Department of Health and Human Services had tested that and collected studies from major medical institutions and universities, and it had been tested with a double-blind study or a feasibility trial and then a pivotal trial and all the major steps that go into doing that. I never said that. I just said literally the fact as I told you. People buy this and put it in their food, and they'll go to the nutrition store and buy it in pill form and take it every day because they believe it's going to prevent them from ever having cancer. YouTube came down so hard on me. They made a spectacle out of me. And even on their weekly video to the creators, they said, yeah, and don't make any wild claims like turmeric's going to cure cancer either. And I went from 2,500 views a day to like 25 views a day. My view count went down 100 times. And I started putting out better videos with better thumbnails, with better search engine optimization, better SEO. And I could not get the view count above 25 views every 48 hours. So I realized then they had squelched me and they locked my channel down to where it would never, ever get more than 25 views in 48 hours, no matter what I did. So I quit, and that's why you haven't seen me in a while. And that's why I'm back with my new studio set up with my new microphone that I'm not using yet, but probably later this afternoon, this evening, I will come back from my desk with my new XLR microphone with my studio lighting. But I'm using this channel, which is Alex Aquarius, with no space in between the 2 names. It's the only difference in my profile picture is a little different. But if there's no one in here yet, I'm going to go ahead and stop. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you find it and you end up watching it even after the live stream, maybe you'll watch it now, 9 hours from now, 16 hours from now. days from now, maybe 3 months from now, you'll be watching this if I don't delete it. All right. Thank you for coming. Hope you enjoyed my ranting and my babbling, some stories I told. But hasta luego. Ciao.